Hello everybody, and welcome to another video from Learn Computing with Daniel Bullen, with me, Daniel Bullen, where today I'm going to go through an A-level past paper of 2023, AS level actually, from the Cambridge International for AS level computer science. So the paper we're going to be focusing on is paper 1, Theory Fundamentals. But before I go right into the paper, please remember to click that like and subscribe button and that notifications bell to get updates on more videos that I am going to be producing. So, without further ado, I'm going to go right into the actual video. I'm not going to go through the instructions and the la-di-da, because that's what the invigilator reads out before you actually start your exam, which is hour and 30 minutes. Yep, and you must answer on the question paper, and no other additional materials are provided. Calculators are not to be used in this paper, which is pants for A. So let's start on question 1. So we got a company that has a local area network, or LAN for short. So we need to give 2 benefits of connecting computers to a LAN. So the benefits, there's many more, but there's 2. So think of the benefits of a network. So we are going to allow sharing of files. Yes, we are. You could think of it from a school network point of view, where you can share files between your user accounts or your devices. And we can allow for central management by the school's technician. They're going to essentially manage the whole school's network. So that's the benefit of how, or they can install software from their central computer, which goes on all the computers across the school, without having to go to every room, install it bit by bit by bit by bit. Can you imagine how long that takes? Yeah. So they could just do it from their central computer and just go, push, done. Okay? Give 2 characteristics of a LAN. So a LAN is going to be confined to one site, which is going to be a small geographical area. So one characteristic is small geographical area. Another characteristic about a LAN is all the devices, everything is owned by that one organization. Like all the stuff is owned by that school. Okay? So, one of the company's offices has 1 server and 4 computers connected in a star topology. So we need to draw a diagram of the office's star topology. So, this is how I would do it. You've got a server. We've got computer 1. Doesn't matter which way you do it. Computer 2. Computer 3. And then we've got computer 4. So that has got nothing at the moment. So what we need now, we need a link that does that. Link that's going to do that. Yep, you'll just have to excuse my terrible drawings, because drawing to me is terrible. Yep, reason why I'm drawing arrows because they can go both ways, which is what we call bidirectional. So you get 1 mark for each computer directly connected to the server, and all the components being correctly labeled. So what I've done is I've correctly labeled all the components, and then I've made the connections. That's 2 easy marks, but you've got to know what a star topology looks like. Okay? Shall we press on? Yes, we shall press on. D. Computers can be connected using Ethernet. Describe what is meant by Ethernet. So this is a 3 marker. So an Ethernet is a protocol suite. So I would say the internet is a protocol suite that is used for data transmissions. That's 2 marks. And then I would say that data is transmitted in frames. That's 3 marks. So each of the frames is going to have a source IP address and a destination IP address. And you are also going to get error checking on that data. So any frames that have been damaged or corrupted will have to be resent by the sender. For E, the network runs on a thick client model. So we're basically saying, what is a thick client model? So a thick client model is a model. So if you're looking to start a sentence, I would say it is a model where the server performs minimal processing for the client, and the clients do most of their own work. That's all we need to say there. There's nothing really more you can say from that. So a thick client model is where the server performs minimal processing for the client, and most of the work is going to be done by that client. And that's question 1. Question 2, all about databases. So the horse riding school uses a database called Lessons to store data about lesson bookings. So we're creating this database using what's called a database management system. And you've got the table that has the names and descriptions of your typical features and tools of a database management system. So we got to complete the missing names and descriptions. So let's start with data dictionary. What is a data dictionary? Data about data inside the database. That's what a data dictionary is. So it's data about data that happens to reside in that database. So it's relating to that structure. So if you remember, when you do binary and images, metadata is data about data. Data dictionary is essentially the same thing, but for databases. It's metadata for that database. And then the next definition is a query processor. So a query processor is a piece of software that allows users to enter criteria and then find and return the appropriate results. That's literally it. So, and that which will be written in SQL. So when you're doing queries, you write it in a structured query language, or SQL. SQL can be quite fun to do, but it's not very forgiving. But let's get back into this. Description: a model of a database not specific to one database management system. That is what we're going to call. That is what's called a logical schema. And then another name, which means a software that allows users to create items like tables, forms, reports. That is the developer interface. Microsoft Access will have a developer interface. Postgres will have one, Workbench will have one, Oracle will have these developer interfaces where we can write our SQL code. Okay? And that is question 2, part A. For part B, we need to explain the reasons why referential integrity is important in a database. So what we're doing with referential integrity, we are ensuring. So with referential integrity, the idea is to make sure that the data is still there. So it's a foreign key being dependent on the primary key. So why do we need that such thing called referential integrity? Because we want to make sure the data is consistent across the database. Okay? Make sure all the data is updated and ensure that every foreign key has a corresponding primary key. It's no good having a foreign key if you don't have the primary key that goes with it. Because a foreign key is what links to the primary key in another table. So the foreign key is a primary key in another table. That's literally it. And that would be your 3 marks right there. Other things you could have, you could also say, with referential integrity, you're preventing records from being messed about with incorrectly, adding, deleting, or modifying data incorrectly. And it makes sure that if you change the data in one place, it's reflected everywhere in the database. And it makes sure that queries will return accurate and complete results. That's the idea. Okay, so we got the database lessons has 3 tables: course, student, lesson. So dates in a database are stored using a date, month, year format. So the fields rider level and horse level can only have values beginner, intermediate, and advanced. So we need 2 methods of validating the field rider level. So my preferred one is a presence check to ensure that the rider level is actually filled. And then what I would have a length check to make sure the rider level entered is 8 or 12 characters. You could also have a type check to make sure they're alphanumeric so that they're only letters. And you could also have a lookup check to make sure that the rider level is beginner, intermediate, or advanced. That's the idea behind data validation. And it's useful, especially when you're making programs in any programming language. And here we need to write an SQL script that returns the names of all the horses that have the horse intermediate or beginner. So let's break this down. We want to select name. That would be 1 mark. So we're selecting the name field. And we want it from the horse table. So just by doing those 2 lines is 2 marks. And then what we need is the where clause. So where the horse level field, and we're using the equals relational operator, which is relational in the case of SQL. And then when you're doing strings, you need quotation marks. And then we're going to have intermediate in there. But then we also need a logical operator because it has or beginner. So we write the or statement. We still write horse level, like you would if you were doing Python, Java, C#, C++, etc. Then go horse level, 1 equals string beginner. Okay? So you get 1 mark for saying select name, 1 mark for saying from horse, 1 mark for the where clause of horse level being intermediate, and another mark for saying all horse levels beginner. You could change those around and have, well, where horse levels beginner or horse levels intermediate. But either way, you are ensuring that only those who got beginner or intermediate will appear in that query. Okay? And when you're doing past paper questions, sometimes it's worth actually you making that database yourself on Access, Workbench, wherever. If you try making it yourself, get that practical experience, you're gonna be able to do these no problem. And it's an exercise I recommend doing. Okay. Following SQL script should return the number of riders that have the rider level beginner and have the lesson booked on the 9th of the 9th, 2023. So you've got a code here that's got errors. There's 4 errors in the script, so we need to identify and correct the error. So what have we got? Select sum as number of riders. Well, number of riders, we want sum should be count, and because as number of riders, we want to count how many riders there are. Sum, you're adding 2 things together. Count, you're just adding 1 thing up, seeing right how many riders are there. Right, so we go from student from lesson, that's correct, so we can leave that alone. Where clause, student ID is equal to student ID. So the where clause needs to have table names before each field name. So that's what we need. So you would have student ID equals lesson dot student ID. And you would have the dots there, which will represent which is a join, which is using a join. So one of those would get, if you were to pick one of these, you would get a mark. Okay? And then what we got here, or should be an and, because we got, if you look at the question, rider level is beginner and have a lesson booked. We don't want or, so or should be an and, because it's an and. If a question said or, then we would have an or. And then what we need in speech marks, so rider level, it's meant to be a string. Rider level is a string, which means, so I would say the word beginner needs to be in quotes, like this. Beginner. So the word beginner needs to be in speech marks. That's literally it. So it's got to be in speech marks. Okay, so that would be 4 marks right there. And SQL is not nice if you don't know what you're doing. But right, and the same will be for assembly language. So a program is written in assembly language. We're converting a program into machine code by a 2-pass assembler. So we need to draw 1 or more lines to identify the pass or passes in which each action takes place. So, generates object code. That is going to be the second. That's going to be the second pass. Reads the source code one line at a time. That will be a first, and that can be a second as well. Removes white space. That is going to be the first. And adds labels to the symbol table. That's also going to be a first. All converging on the first. So the only one really going to second, only two that's going to second are generates the object code and reads the source code. So look at that, first pass, remove white space, add labels to the symbol table. Then it's going to read the source code one line at a time and then generate the object code. Okay. So draw one or more lines, which we've done. Assembly language statements can use different modes of addressing. So this is requiring you to remember three words. So this one's worth, something addressing is when the operand holds the memory address of the data. So we're holding the memory address of the data, and that's going to be direct. Something addressing is when the operand holds a memory address that stores the memory address of the data. So that's going to be indirect addressing. And something addressing is where the operand is the data, and that is going to be immediate addressing. That's literally it. So the first one's direct, second's indirect, third one is immediate. There's nothing more to explain than that. Number 4, the type of question that any exam board have got to ask. So data in a computer is based in binary form. State the number of unique binary values that can be represented in 16 bits. So the unique binary values. So it would be 2 to the power of 16. It's literally it. Or you could have 65,536. But if you can't remember that exact number, 2 to the power of 16 will be fine. As long as you remember that it's binary is base 2 and it's going to the power of 16 because you got 16 bits. Okay. So now we need to give the 8-bit ones complement representation of the denary number minus 120. So, how you would do that? So, my way of doing 2's complement is I'm going to draw out the binary table because it's a good habit to get into. So, I'm going to do 120 in positive, then flip the bits. 96, 112, 120. So, flip the bits, so we're going to get minus 128. Boom, boom, boom. Plus 4, minus 124, minus 122, minus 121. Okay. Which is, that is literally that, using 1's complement. So you don't need to go any further than that. All I've done is I converted the positive into binary and just flip the bits. This isn't like 2's complement where you've got to do add 1 and then do the binary addition. As it's 1's complement, we can just leave it alone. and say bosh. Okay, now we need to convert the number A04 into denary. So we've got three things to deal with. I would do 8421, 8421, 8421. So 842. That's one nibble done. 0. Nice and easy. Nice and easy. So we've done that into nibbles. Okay. So now we know it's going to be 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 132. Not 132, sorry. 128. So that's what we've got. So that's 8 bits. Now I'm going to do 256. That's 9, 10, 11, 12. So we've got 12 there. So what we're going to do, 1, 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 0. So all we're doing is 2048 plus 512 plus 4. So that is going to give us 2560 plus a 4 is going to be 2564. That's literally it. There we go. Bosh. This is a question I got to ask. The mark scheme shows you an entirely different way of doing it. But this is the way I recommend, because you can convert the hex into binary and then convert the binary to denary from there. That's the easier way to do it, and that's the way I teach it to my students online and in a classroom setting. That's the way I would do it. It's so much easier, it's a lot less faff, and you've got more time to do the other stuff you don't know is going to come up, which is literally copy and paste the mark scheme. Okay, excellent. We need to show the results of a 2-place leftwards logical shift on the binary number. So we're not doing arithmetic shifting, this is logic shifting. So if we do 0, 1, 0, 0, 1, 1, 1, 1. So we want to go 2 places to the left, and it's a logical shift. So it's going to be, so we want to get rid of the 0, 1. So we're going to have 0, 0, 1, 1. So we're taking those out of the way. We are eliminating those. And we're just having 0, 0, all 4 of those 1s. And then we're just finishing off with zeros. That is our leftwards shift. Our leftwards logical shift. If it was arithmetic shifting, we would bring those back. Okay? And that's one easy mark. Ooh. Looks like we're on to some hardware stuff now. Student has purchased a new laptop. Laptop's designed using von Neumann model for a computer. So we can identify 2 types of signal that a control bus can transfer. It will be the read and the write. You could also have time and interrupt. But the first things that come to my head are read and write. Come up with one, you come up with the other, bosh, done. That's why I said read and write. Nice and easy. And then we need to describe 2 ways the hardware of a laptop can be upgraded to improve the performance and explain how each upgrade improves that performance. So that's 4 marks, so 1 way for 2. So we could increase the number of cores, where each core carries out a process at the same time, independently. Yes, we can do that, no problem. And we can also increase the computer's, we could increase the computer's clock speed, where more fetch, decode, execute cycles can run each second. As long as we're careful not to overclock. Because if you overclock, you're going to shorten the lifespan of that laptop. So you can increase the clock speed, but as long as we remember not to overclock a CPU, because there's two differences. Okay, clock speed, time it takes to actually run the fetch, decode, execute cycle, and overclocking is making a computer perform faster than its advertised speed. Overclocking is a no-no. We don't want to do it. And another 2 ways the hardware can be upgraded to improve performance is increasing the RAM capacity, which allows applications to reside in memory at the same time, saving the disk access times. Or we can increase the cache memory, where we can store more data in fast access, so less time is spent accessing that data from the RAM, which, if you remember, chunks would be downloaded to the cache, so it's always got that supply of memory to actually deliver, because the CPU cycles are slower. So for me, I would have increase the number of cores, where each core carries out a process at the same time independently, and increase the clock speed, where more fetch, decode, execute cycles run each second. That's 4 marks right there. Question C, part 1. Peripherals connected to a laptop using ports. So printers one of them, is a peripheral device. We can connect that to the USB port. So we need to describe how data is transmitted through a USB port. So one bit is transmitted at a time. So as it's transmitted, you can have synchronous or asynchronous transmission. And USB 3 in particular, it's full duplex, but you would have earlier USB versions which would be half duplex. Okay? So I'm not going to get into too much of that, because we've got a past paper to go through. So you basically need to know simplex, half duplex, and full duplex as well. Okay? And you need to know asynchronous and synchronous transmission. Next one. A monitor is connected to a laptop using a different type of port. So we need to identify one other type of port that can be used to connect to the monitor. Some of us use it every day, HDMI. Yeah, HDMI, they've taken over from the SCART leads. SCART leads are much older. HDMI is the way to go. Another one we could have is a display port. Okay, so for here, 5 marks. Laptop has system software. So system software is stuff that's managing the computer. So it's not like application software where we can go on, use it, do what we like. System software is another type of software. And one example of that is which is what we will need to describe, is operating systems. So that's software that talks to the hardware at a basic level. So we need to describe how operating systems manages processes in a computer. So they're going to manage it. So it will manage the scheduling of processes, so when to process what instructions, and manage what resources the processors need, such as memory allocation. Okay? So that's how it manages it. So this will enable processors to actually share data and prevent interference between two or more processors. So this is where process queue would have to be handled, and that's why that is why in operating systems you hear a lot about multitasking, which is done to actually ensure fair access when it comes to handling priorities and handling interrupts. And that is our 5 marks. Shall we press on? Now we need to describe the purpose of utility software in a computer. So utility software is software that's supposed to fix stuff. So the purpose of utility software is to help users maintain the computer. And one example could be checking the system for faults, malware, and provide security, to name 3 areas. So yes, security management is a utility. Okay, so I got to help users maintain a computer by, for example, checking the system for faults, malware, and provide security, to name 3 areas. Okay, on to number 6. Type of question exam boards have to ask. We need to draw a logic circuit for the following logic expression. R XOR S and not T nor P. Okay, so what we need here, so we want R and S, so we want to draw, that is our XOR. And I've got 2 lines, otherwise it'll just be an OR gate. So that's our XOR, which is fine. And then we want T, which is going to have a triangle, which is a NOT gate. And then what we want to do, we want to bring this all the way here, and then we want to bring that. So we got not T nor P. So we would need an OR gate. Yep, my terribly drawn OR gate. And then we bring that together, bring that together, and that's where we got the AND gate. And that is our logic circuit. It's only 2 marks, so you will get 1 mark for the correct XOR and AND gate with the correct inputs, and you'll get another mark for the NOT and the NOR gate. So the NOR gate would need to have a circle. So that's our NOR gate. Okay, and that's our circuit done. Next one, we need to complete the truth table for this expression, which is where we've got to think. So let's break this down. So you got 0, 0, 0. All of that is just going to be a 0. 0, 0, 1. That's going to be a 1. So if we think about it, with an XOR gates, they will, if any inputs are different, the outputs are going to be a 1, otherwise they'll be a 0. So you got not P or Q, XOR R NOR Q. So 0, 1, 0. So the P and R are the same, but the 1 isn't. But the Q isn't, so that's just going to be a 1. 0, 1, 1. P and R are not the same, so that's a 1. And then P and R are not the same, so that's a 1. P and R are the same, so that's a 0. And then P and R are not the same, that's a 1. P, Q, and R are the same, are all 1s, so that's going to be a 1. Okay? So that is our truth table. So you will get 1 mark if you get 4 rows right. So 1 mark just for having these right, and another mark for having these right. Number 7. Software developer is working in a team writing a program for a client. The developer is writing a new program library that can be used by the other team members. So this is where we've got to think. Define the term program library. So program library is going to be a set of pre-written subroutines. So subroutines are subprograms. In Python, you'll know it as the def function. So the set pre-written subroutines which can be called in other programs. That's 2 marks right there. So you can install or import the various libraries. And if you do Python, you can do a lot of that. Same for Java, same for C#, and you can do the same in C++. Basically any programming language. And what we need to do here is explain 2 benefits to the developer of choosing to create a dynamic link library. So the first one is memory requirements for the program will be reduced as DDL is loaded only once. And then the second one would be the executable file size of the program that uses DDL will be smaller, and the reason why it will be smaller because the executable does not have all the library routines. If we were to have all the library routines, the executable file size of the program is going to be much bigger. So it's only downloading what's needed and not just the full Monty. And maintenance won't be needed either by the program because the DDL is separate. The dynamic link library is separate. And you won't need to recompile the main program when you make changes in the dynamic link library because the changes are done independently of the main program. And one dynamic link library file can be made available to lots of application programs, so you're saving that space in memory. Okay? Okay. The development team needs to use a translator whilst writing the program for the client. So we got to identify whether an interpreter or a compiler would be more appropriate at this stage of the program development. So we've got to justify our choice. So it could be interpreter or compiler. So you will get 1 mark just for saying either interpreter or compiler. So let's say I say interpreter. That's 1 mark. So we need 2 marks to justify it. So with an interpreter, the developer can test a program when incomplete, and interpreters allow developers to avoid dependent errors. But some of you might argue, no, well, hang on, a compiler would be better. So in that case, you would get 1 mark for saying compiler if you chose compiler instead. So in that, the developer can debug lots of errors at the same time, and an executable file is produced. That's exactly what I would be saying if I was to pick interpreter or compiler. But you cannot just have both. I've only done that to show you what you can have. So you could either say compiler and why you would choose a compiler, or you could say interpreter and why you would choose an interpreter. That's basically what the question's saying. It's basically saying, right, which is better, interpreter or compiler? Why do you think that said translator is better? That's what the question's basically asking. Okay, so for part C, development team uses an integrated development environment. So we need to complete the table by describing the typical features found in an integrated development environment. So breakpoint is 1, so it just stops the code at specific lines to check the current progress. Dynamic syntax checks, they will underline color syntax errors as the code is entered. Yeah, but the problem is, if you're using some IDEs, they got AI to do it for you, which is stopping us from actually learning the damn thing. But hey, we've got context-sensitive prompts. So this is like some of the AI stuff that's coming into Replit if you use it. So context-sensitive prompts, or AI and AI systems as well, they'll suggest the code to add, and they will automatically complete statements for you. And then single stepping, so we run the code 1 line at a time, so we can check the values. Okay, so that would be 4 marks just for making those basic definitions. And that's the table done. So breakpoints, stop to code at specific lines to check current progress. Dynamic syntax checks, we're underlining color syntax errors as we literally enter the code. Context-sensitive prompts, it's suggesting the code to add. So think of some of the AI systems you may have come across if you use Replit. Then you got single stepping, so we're running the code 1 line at a time so we can check the values. And then the last question. Oh, artificial intelligence. We were just talking about you. Okay, so one section of the program being developed will convert a user's speech into commands. So we need to explain how artificial intelligence can be used in this program. So it's going to use speech recognition, which identifies key phrases and matches these to a database. And then what it will also do is it will generate the most likely sentence, command, or word. And that is 3 marks for that one. And we've come to the end of the question paper. Yep, so literally on the end of the question paper, what I do 2 blank pages, I'll never know, but A. So, if you like this video, please remember to click that like and subscribe button and hit that notifications bell for more updates on more videos that I create. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video very soon. Goodbye for now. So please be sure to hit that like, and please also remember to hit that subscribe button. And another way to subscribe is to just click on this link, which is below each video I place. And if you like my content and you want to find out more about what I do, I've also got an online course called Introduction to Computer Systems on the Udemy website. So you just need to click on it, and there we go. So this is my online course, Introduction to Computer Systems. So this is the landing page for that course. So in it, you will learn. So these are some of the things we'll learn, like explaining the role of the central processing unit, describe the components of the CPU, provide an introduction to assembly language, which is low-level programming, explain the factors that affect the performance of the central processing unit, and I've also put in another bit that I'm interested in, the physics of overclocking the CPU, which made me develop an interest in electronics and also physics. So there's a lot more to it than even we realized. So this is the course content. So you've got computer systems, so I'm introducing you to it. Then I'm going into the different forms of architecture and assembly language. Then I'm going into the factors that affect it and the physics of overclocking the CPU. And then I'm going into logic, so combinational logic systems, making the logic gates, sequential logic systems, semiconductors. Then I go into all things binary, where we introduce you to number systems, all the way down to doing binary and sound, images and text. And then finally we got input and output devices and the different forms of storage, so that's where memory will come in. And then my assessment is basically one big quiz of 30 questions. So you don't need any knowledge to do this course. All you need is a computer with stable internet connection. So that's all you really need there. And why you should do the course? Well, wherever I don't know, I'll go out and learn it. So the way my brain is wired is I'm on the autism spectrum. So it will be an asset in helping you get through the online courses that we provide. So we understand how to explain things in simple terms due to my teaching background. So you could think of us as a real-life version of, say, Sheldon Cooper from Big Bang Theory, minus the rudeness, or a C-3PO, but without the glitches. So I'm on the autism spectrum, so we're on the autism spectrum and have a rough idea on how to talk to them and relate to them. And my teaching style is that style I've crafted, and one that works in a way that some people don't get if they only had tuition in the classroom or just want to study the subject a lot more. So this course provides you with the opportunity to go further than you would in the subject that you want to pursue. So those are some of the reasons why you should consider buying this online course, because once you buy it, it's yours for a lifetime. For some of my videos, I will go through programming tasks. So if you want to do these yourself, I have put a Replit link below on my programming videos. So you just click on REPL, and this is what you need if you haven't signed up at all. So you just click sign up. If you've got an account, you just click login, and once you've logged in or signed up, this is the page that will appear. So if I was to log in right now, this is the page, so this will appear. So that will be the page there. And in addition to all that, I am also a private tutor where I offer my private tutoring services, specializing in ICT and computer science. And I look forward to you coming to me for lessons. Goodbye for now.